Dead.
Sega and I have an interesting relationship. When it came to games at home, it was and still is mostly Nintendo for me. Portable consoles, all Nintendo. But in the arcades, yeah, I suffered through the console wars back in the 16-bit era, and it was always, which one is better? Which one is better? I stand behind my original love for my NES, SNES, and to a lesser extent, my N64. But when I would go to an arcade, Nintendo didn't have much to offer that wasn't what I call Golden Days arcade games. Basically, the goal of the game was to get a high score. I never subscribed to games that old too often. Yeah, I could beat Donkey Kong, but that didn't really have me bicycling so far to play an arcade as other games did it. However, every now and then you run into a situation where there's no other possible way out of it than to grab a gun and start shooting at everyone involved. Survive it. But this time, Sega made the game. I was so adamant about not liking Sega on the home market. However, they always had me sold in the arcade. I'd be playing a game, enjoying the hell out of it, and then I would see it was made by Sega. I know, betraying my loyalties, but this game has bloody zombies and you can blow their heads off. And I'm a blood and gore, and it was so damn fun. Sega, you were the forbidden skank I was cheating with behind the back of my beautiful lifelong love Nintendo. I think I got away with it too. Just don't tell my 3DS or Wii U. Luckily, the House of the Dead was placed far enough away from any Nintendo titles in the arcade, so more often than not, I wouldn't have to be too sneaky about it. Even though Nintendo somehow got known for Donkey Kong back in the day, Sega had been making arcade machines starting from the mid-70s. I know Nintendo has been around since like 1890, but Sega still got their start in 1940, so they're an old company as well. And the list of arcade games I've looked up is very impressive. Very impressive indeed. One of these games is what I'm going to remember today, known as the House of the Dead. This was a much faster version of Sega's Virtua Cop, which is another one of those every now and then games, you know, where you run into a situation and there's no other possible way out of it than to grab... I'm gonna run out of ways to say that. I gotta stop repeating jokes. It's lazy writing. Where Virtua Cop had the whole 3D movement, but not by you, but by a rail that you are glued to, it still seemed kinda slow. This is where House of the Dead shatters that. It was fast, it kept moving, whipping you around like a roller coaster. There were branching paths as well. I'm not saying you would always have a different path every time you played, but you could do some things that would cause you to go down a different road or two. Say, save an innocent person or shoot a door. Wikipedia says that, I do not remember the door thing. I'm not the one on trial here! It turns out Dr. Roy Cullen has gone insane. Who's he? Well, just the bad guy in the game, you see. The only problem is he has an army of zombies that he wants to unleash upon the world badly. So Special Agent Rogan and Agent G go to the gigantic house of he to rescue Rogan's fiancée, Sophie. By the way, speedy story recap time. I should have said that first, but screw it. I also didn't mean to make it a poem, but this is where I ended up. It's nice when an arcade game has a storyline, and it's even nicer when the voiceover actors can portray the emotion that should be felt in the game.
There's no way out, Kyrian.
I must admit, I really respect your consistency. But you will never, ever defeat me. Say hello to my masterpiece!
Not the case here. Granted, the game is fun and everything about it can be a really wild ride, but when you're a game known for bad voiceovers, you never live down that acclaim. And here's the clip everyone loves from Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Your words are as empty as your soul. Mankind ill needs a savior such as you.
What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets. But enough talk! Have at you!
Once again, amazing game, horrible voice work. Having said that, there are so many great things about this title. It was still a bit early in the Polygon gaming, so let me think. It was released in 1996. It was that year that PlayStation and Sega Saturn had the industry to themselves. So you traverse these many stages, just filling zombies full of lead in place of whatever body part you shoot off. Does it deserve a quarter, most importantly? Well, yeah, the violence level has probably withstood the test of time because who doesn't want to surgically remove a zombie's body parts with a gun whenever possible, as played out as it is these days. As for coming home, I think all I can find for the first game, just the first game, was a barely passable one on the Saturn and a PC version, which was obviously a port of the Saturn version. Why would Sega do this? The PC could likely handle the arcade version back then. Whatever. Yeah, the original is an arcade recommendation if you can find it. They didn't even make it for the Dreamcast. I said Dreamcast finally. What's it been, like 6 episodes since I mentioned it? It also has 4 sequels and almost too many spin-offs. Now this is where it gets fun. If you had a Game Boy Advance, you could play the Pinball of the Dead. I had it and it was fun. I recommend that one. If you have a DS, there is Touch the Dead. I know the DS was trying to get everyone into touchscreen gaming, but that was the best name they could come up with. Then there's the Typing of the Dead. A zombie killing game but with keyboards and you type out the words on screen. I never had it, but it got great reviews and there aren't many typing games I would actually want to try aside from this one, so there's that. If you had or have the Wii, you could get the second and third installment of the game on one disc, which is a great deal, but one flew under the radar here. The House of the Dead Overkill. This is great. It actually seems to make fun of its own mediocrity in the past in a way of voice acting and other mistakes by making this version a ridiculous grindhouse B-movie style. I think it was one of my favorite Wii games and I think it deserved more credit than it got. You can also get the Typing of the Dead Overkill on Steam, but there's not so many ludicrous body parts on the ground after you clear a room like with the Wii version's gun controls. I never thought back then that Sega would be a part of my favorite games to play on a Nintendo system. But, whatever. Welcome, Mita Penix Tlevel. Blast processing. Genesis does what Nintendo don't. Sega! Sega! And Arcade Past. Let's make it last. It's me, Mike. How you doing? It took me a little while to get started again, but here I am, and I put one out now. I'm planning on putting out more, trust me. It's getting, they're started. There's like 4 of them. But I'm on the Half-Ass Podcast. That button's in the middle there, right above the subscribe button. Try that one too. Or here's some other episodes that I've done in the past. One about the Half-Ass Podcast even.